Star Trek Lower Decks puts a hilarious twist on a famous quote spoken by Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Following the adventures of the USS Cerritos, Lower Decks focuses on the lower-level officers like Lieutenants Brad Boimler, Jack Quaid, Beckett Mariner, Tawny Newsome, and their friends. Picking up about 1 year after the events of Star Trek Nemesis, Lower Decks continues Star Trek's TNG era. Because of this, several characters from previous Trek shows have popped up on Lower Decks, including TNG's Captain Will Riker, Jonathan Frakes. In its fifth and final season, Star Trek Lower Decks remains as funny as ever, incorporating numerous references to past Trek while building on its own established lore. In Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 2, Shades of Green, the Cerritos visits the planet Targalis IX that has abolished its capitalist system and abandoned all forms of currency. LT Boimler leads an away team, embracing his role with confidence, inspired by his recent encounter with his alternate universe duplicate. However, after 2 ensigns on his team get kidnapped, Boimler and Mariner have to mount a rescue mission. Before LT Boimler's 2 ensigns are kidnapped, LT Beckett Mariner encouraged him to be a fun boss and allow his team to take some time off. Mariner then blames herself for the kidnapping, but Boimler reassures her that neither one of them is to blame. Boimler points out that it is possible to do everything right and still get your away team kidnapped by the corporate elite. This is a hilarious and very specific take on something Captain Picard once told LT. Commander Data, Brent Spiner. In Star Trek: The Next Generation Season 2, Episode 21, Peak Performance, Data loses a game of Stratagema, which prompts him to remove himself from bridge duty. Data knows that he made no mistakes, and he cannot find anything wrong with his systems, but his confidence is clearly shaken. Captain Picard visits Data in his quarters, telling him that it is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life. Not only does this quote teach Data an important lesson, but it has also become fairly well known beyond the context of the episode. In Star Trek Lower Decks' first 4 seasons, the USS Cerritos encountered the USS Titan, commanded by Captain Riker, visited Space Station Deep Space Nine, and escorted the USS Voyager back to Earth. Several characters from TNG, DS9, and Voyager have also made appearances, with one glaring exception. Although Captain Picard has been mentioned on the show a couple of times, he has yet to make an appearance. Considering Lower Decks is an extension of the TNG era, it just feels right for Picard to appear before the series comes to a close. Star Trek Lower Decks will always feel like a spiritual successor to Star Trek: The Next Generation. In its 4th season, Star Trek Lower Decks became even more interwoven with TNG, as it was revealed that Mariner was at Starfleet Academy with Wesley Crusher, Will Wheaton, and Cito Jaxa, Shannon Phil. Former Starfleet cadet Nicholas Locarno, Robert Duncan McNeil, also returned as the big bad of Lower Decks Season 4, after being dismissed from Starfleet in TNG's The First Duty. Whether or not Captain Picard pops up before the series finale, Star Trek Lower Decks will always feel like a spiritual successor to Star Trek: The Next Generation.